I used to think the scariest part of getting old was my knees. Turns out it was my bank account going quiet. I'm not new to money problems. I'm just old enough now to see the real ones upcoming. And one month, my social security check didn't show up when it was supposed to. I opened my laptop like I always do. Same morning, same routine. I checked the account like always. Still zero. No deposit. Just a normal looking screen with a very abnormal problem. At first, I told myself it was a small delay, a holiday, a bank glitch. You know, the little lies you tell so you can finish your coffee in peace. But the bills didn't care about my coffee. And if you're counting on that check the way I was, listen close.
The moment you find out what you really believe about money is the moment the money doesn't show up. I'm Walter. I'm 80 years old. In the month my Social Security check didn't land, I learned a painful truth. Guaranteed income can still leave you standing at the checkout line like a fool, holding a bag of groceries and pretending you forgot your wallet on purpose. I'm not telling you this because I'm ashamed. I'm telling you because I'm annoyed. Annoyed at the system, sure, but mostly annoyed at myself for trusting a schedule the way a child trusts the ice cream truck. Here's what happened. I was careful and did everything right. I worked, I saved, I didn't buy boats, I didn't buy fancy cars, I bought used cars and drove them until they made noises a car should not make. I paid my taxes, I stayed married, that alone should qualify a man for some kind of medal. And when I retired, I treated Social Security like the floor under my feet. It wasn't the whole plan, but it was the steady part, the part that always comes, the part you can build around. Then one ordinary little thing happened. We moved. Not across the country, not to a beach house in Florida. We moved 15 minutes away, to a smaller place. Same town, different zip code. We did it because the old house had stairs, and at 80, stairs start to feel like a rude suggestion. So I did what any decent citizen does. I changed my address with the post office, I updated the bank, I told my doctor, I told the pharmacy, I even told the magazine that sends me articles about golf, even though I don't play golf. That's how tidy I am. And I assumed Social Security would just follow me. That was my first mistake, assuming. Because Social Security doesn't follow. Social Security processes. Social Security verifies. Those are polite words for, we'll get to it when we get to it, and you will sit there and behave. The 3rd of the month came. That's my day. I've had that day for years, like a little clock. I woke up, made coffee, sat down, and checked the bank account. No deposit. At first, I wasn't worried. I thought maybe the bank was slow. Banks are like teenagers. They move when they feel like it. So I waited. Still nothing. I checked again like a man who thinks staring harder will make numbers appear. Nothing. And that's when I felt it. Not fear, not panic, more like offense. Like someone had walked into my house and moved the furniture 2 inches just to mess with me. Because bills don't wait. Bills don't review your situation. The electric company doesn't say, "Oh, Walter, you moved? Take your time." The electric company says, "Pay up, sunshine. Also, here's a fee for the privilege of being late." That day, I made the first call. If you've never called a government office, imagine a crooked carnival where the game is rigged, the music is loud, and the prize is your own money. You pick up the phone, and a machine talks to you like you're a nuisance. Then it asks you to press numbers, then it tells you to press different numbers, then it hangs up. Eventually, after I listened to hold music that sounded like it was being played through a tin can in a storm drain, a real person answered. I explained my situation. Very calm, very polite, because I was raised right. The woman said, "It looks like your payment is on hold." On hold? Like it's a jacket at a restaurant. I said, "On hold for what?" She said, "A verification process." Now, verification process sounds responsible, doesn't it? Like they're protecting me, like they're catching criminals, like I should be grateful. But here's the funny part. The system that can deposit money into my account with clockwork accuracy for years suddenly needs to verify that I am still me because I moved 15 minutes away. It's like a motor mechanic saying, "Sir, your engine is fine, but we noticed you washed the car. We need to hold the car for 60 days." I asked what I needed to do. She said I had to go to the local office with identification, proof of address, and some other paperwork. So I did it. The next morning, I wore a decent shirt, I brought my driver's license, my passports, my utility bill, my lease, and enough paperwork to prove I am not only Walter, but that I have always been Walter and that I intend to remain Walter until further notice. I get to the office, I take a number, I sit in a chair that was designed by someone who hates hips. The air smelled like old carpet and patience. When my number is called, I walk up to the counter, I slide my documents under the glass like I'm paying ransom. The clerk looks at them, types, clicks, nods, and says, "Okay, you're verified." I said, "Great, so my check will come." She said, "It should resume next cycle." Next cycle. That is not a time, that is a mood. I asked, "So this month?" She gave me a smile that said, "Sir, you are adorable," and she repeated, "Next cycle." I went home with this strange feeling, half relief, half suspicion. You learn at 80 that relief is often just suspense wearing a friendly face. A week passes. Nothing. 2 weeks. Nothing. Now, I want you to picture something, not some dramatic, tragic scene, just something ordinary, because ordinary is where people get into trouble. I'm standing at my kitchen counter looking at my bills. The condo fee, the electric bill, the phone, the car insurance, the supplement plan, a prescription refill. And I'm doing math like a man trying to land a plane with one engine. Because here's the truth. Retirement is not a "how much do you have" problem. It's a "when does it hit your account" problem. You can have a nice nest egg and still be broke on Tuesday. You're sitting there right now, probably nodding, thinking, "That won't happen to me." That's what I thought. I thought I was above it because I'm organized, because I'm careful. Let me tell you something simple. If you think being careful stops delays, you've never met a computer system designed by a committee. A committee can turn a straight line into a pretzel. So I did what a lot of retirees do without thinking. I said, "Fine, I'll just take a little from investments." And that's when the second trap snapped shut. The market was down. Of course it was down, because life loves a combo meal. It never serves problems one at a time. It stacks them like pancakes. So if I pulled money from my investments, I would be selling when prices were low. I would be turning a temporary market dip into a permanent loss. That's when I learned the difference between having money and having cash.
I sat there, staring at the screen, thinking, "Walter, you old goat, you built a plan that only works if nothing goes wrong. That's not a plan, that's a wish." The next month comes. Still no Social Security deposit. Now I'm not worried, I'm irritated. There's a difference. Worry is when you think you might be helpless. Irritation is when you realized you were careless. So I call again. Hold music, tin can jazz, another person. This person tells me something that would be funny if it wasn't my rent money. She says, "Your verification is complete, but the payment release takes time." I said, "How much time?" She said, "It can take several weeks." Several weeks? That's like a restaurant telling you dinner will be served in several chewings. This is the point where you either get smart or you get bitter. Bitter's easy. Smart takes effort. So I got smart, but not before I got a little cranky. I made a decision that day that changed my whole retirement. I stopped trusting any single stream of money to arrive right on time, because right on time is not a feature, it's a fantasy. I went into my finances like a man cleaning out a garage, not gently, ruthlessly. And here's what I saw. I had built my monthly life around one deposit date. I had automatic payments lined up like dominoes, and I had almost no cash sitting in plain sight because I thought cash was lazy money. I used to brag about being fully invested. Now I see that was like bragging your house has no fire extinguisher because you don't like clutter. So I created what I now call my buffer. Not a big, complicated system, just cash. Boring cash, sitting there, waiting. I know some people hate that idea. They say cash earns nothing. Yes, and smoke alarms also earn nothing, but you still want one in your hallway. This buffer is not for vacations, it's not for gifts, it's not for new furniture. It's for one thing: time. Time is what you buy with a buffer. Time to deal with delays, time to fix paperwork, time to wait out a bad market month so you don't sell at the bottom like a fool. Because retirement is a timing game. Timing is everything. The bills hit when they hit. Your income must be able to hit back. Now, around this same time, life added another little joke. A medical bill arrived. I had gone in for a simple test, nothing big, in and out. A few weeks later, an envelope showed up. Thick one, you know the kind that feels like it has opinions inside. I open it, and it's a bill, not a small one. And here comes the part that makes me laugh now, because if I don't laugh, I'll start giving speeches in the post office. The doctor was in-network. The facility was in-network. But apparently the person who looked at the test results was from somewhere else, some invisible little side business inside the building, like a toll booth on a road you already paid to drive on. That bill was like buying a house where the front door is free, but the doorknob costs $10,000. I called the billing number. You ever argue with medical billing? If you think the IRS is tough, try arguing with a hospital billing software that's been programmed by a shark. The people on the phone are nice, but the system they serve is a cold machine. It does not care if you are right. It cares if the code matches the code. So now I had two things squeezing me at the same time: Social Security delays and a surprise medical bill, both arriving with the cheerful timing of a thief. This is what happens to people in retirement, not because they're dumb, because they plan for averages. They plan for normal. But normal is a lie told by people who haven't had a problem yet. So I sat down with my wife at the kitchen table. I didn't make a speech. I didn't pretend to be calm. I just said, we're changing how we run this place. And we did. First, I stopped letting every bill auto-draft from one checking account like it was the only bucket in the house. I opened a second checking account at a different bank. Why? Because sometimes banks freeze accounts. Sometimes they decide your purchase is suspicious. Sometimes their fraud system gets spooked because you bought something in the next town over. The fraud system is a guard dog with rabies. It bites the owner half the time. So now if one account gets frozen, I can still pay bills from the other. I don't have to beg. I don't have to wait. I don't have to stand there like a man asking permission to access his own money. Then I did something that sounds small, but it changed everything. I made my paperwork discipline serious. I used to be proud of my shoebox of receipts. That is not discipline. That is a time capsule. Now I keep a simple folder for every important thing: Social Security letters, Medicare statements, bank changes, password resets. Any call I make, I write down the date, the name, and what they told me. Because here's another truth: if it isn't written down, it didn't happen. You might remember the conversation, but the system won't. The system only respects paper. The system worships paper. Paper is its religion. And let me talk to you directly for a second. You, yes you, watching this. You're probably thinking, I'll handle it if it happens. No, you won't. You'll handle it badly, like I did, because you will be surprised. Surprise makes people stupid. So remove the surprise. Build in slack. Build in time. Build in cash. Now the Social Security payment finally came back. Not with an apology, not with a little note that said, sorry we turned your life into a juggling act.
It came back like nothing happened, like a cat that knocked over a glass and then looked at you like you did it. They did send the missed money in a lump. That part is fine. The math catches up. But the pain wasn't the missing money. The pain was the gap. That gap is where you make bad decisions. That gap is where you sell investments at the wrong time. That gap is where you miss payments and get fees. That gap is where you start using credit cards like a life raft and then realize it has a hole. Experience is what you get when you didn't get what you wanted. I wanted a smooth retirement. I got a lesson, and it made me sharper. Now, when people ask me, "Walter, are you worried about retirement?" I tell them, no, I'm worried about Tuesday. Because Tuesday is when bills show up and deposits don't. Tuesday is when a letter comes with a barcode and bad news. Tuesday is when you find out if your plan is real or if it's just a story you tell yourself. I'm still invested. I still care about growth. I'm not stuffing cash under a mattress like a character from an old movie. But I treat cash like it is part of the machine, like oil in an engine. If you run an engine with no oil, it can still move for a little while. Then it destroys itself. That's what happens when retirees run with no buffer. They can still pay bills until one delay hits or one medical bill shows up, and then they start breaking things to stay warm. So when you go home tonight, or when you turn off this video, do one thing for your future self. Stop thinking of retirement as a pile of money. Start thinking of it as a monthly heartbeat. Ask yourself, if my guaranteed money is late by 60 days, am I fine or am I cornered? If you're cornered, you don't need more optimism. You need a buffer. You need a second lane on the highway. You need paperwork that is ready before the envelope shows up, because the envelope always shows up. And here's my last thought, from one old man to another, or to anyone who plans to get old, which is most of you if you're lucky. The goal isn't to be rich. The goal is to be unrushed. Unrushed when the market is down. Unrushed when the government is slow. Unrushed when the hospital sends you a bill that looks like a prank. When you have time, you have power. When you have cash, you have time. And when the next envelope comes, and it will, you'll open it calmly, sip your coffee, and think, not today. I built room for this. I hope you learned something from this.